This week on Chair Shot Sports. How's everyone doing, guys? John Anthony here. An amazing show we have for you. We're going to break down the Elimination Chamber, the matches, and our predictions, and what some of the matchups might end up being after coming out of those chamber matches for the men's and the women's. And also, I wanted to touch on what a lot of people aren't talking about yet right now is the Hall of Fame inductions that should be coming down the pike in a little bit. I want to share with you my top 6 possibilities to go into the Hall this year. Well, thanks again. Appreciate you guys joining us for another edition of Chair Shot Sports. Again, I'm John Anthony. Pleasure to have you guys. Thank you for taking the time. Fresh off of the Elimination Chamber presser out in Perth. Amazing show. I'm telling you, man, WWE has been doing an amazing job with these pressers. First doing it to kick off the road to WrestleMania, and now doing it out in Perth. Just an amazing opportunity for fans to gather, enjoy a little bit of the product, get their mouth watering, get a little bit of taste on the palate for the event. I think well done by WWE. Triple H out there doing his thing. It's amazing. Just love what they're doing with that whole thing. But I digress. So let's get right into it, guys. This upcoming weekend, we have the WWE Elimination Chamber match. We have a women's match to figure out who's going to be facing off against Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. We also have a men's chamber match to see who's going to be facing off against Seth freaking Rollins at WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight Championship. Just announced on the pre-show is going to be the women's tag team title match with Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae taking on the Kabuki Warriors. I think it's a great way to get Indy on the card. Also Candice as well. I think it's a no-brainer. It's a shoo-in. I mean, Candice, the Kabuki Warriors going against Candice LeRae and Indy. I mean, it's going to be a good match, I'm sure, but Kabuki Warriors are definitely taking those titles all the way to Mania. So Kabuki Warriors by a landslide. While staying in the tag division on the men's side, we have the Judgment Day with Finn Balor and Damian Priest taking on Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate over from the SmackDown side. Now, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think it's very specific as to why it's a SmackDown team that's taking on the Judgment Day for these belts. I definitely feel like at some point, whether it's going to be interference, some kind of nefarious ways of the Judgment Day winning, I feel like you're going to fast forward to Monday night or maybe even Friday night as well. You're going to have a whole bunch of tag teams in the offices of the GM of Pierce and of Nick Aldis. I think you're going to see the both of them get together, look at each other, and say we need to figure this out. And I think what we're leading into here is the eventual and hopefully the actual happening of the splitting of the undisputed tag team titles in WWE, so that WWE Monday Night Raw and also SmackDown have their respective tag belts. I think WWE's done an amazing job of building up the tag division these past couple months on both brands. NXT also has an amazing amount of tag teams that they're waiting to bring up as well. So definitely something that needs to be done. I think it's long overdue. I think it's run its course. It made sense for when it was with the Usos, the Bloodline. I know giving it, obviously, Judgment Day was on all the shows for a while there, but I think that's kind of run its course. I think it's time to separate those and have each brand have its own tag championship. So obviously I think Judgment Day is going to be going over in this match, but the way it's going to happen isn't exactly going to be fair by any means of the imagination. And then leading up, like I said, probably to some kind of tournament on both sides, I should say, for Raw and SmackDown, leading into a culminating, probably instead of maybe we had talked about before, maybe have a tag team invitational or a showcase. You might see Raw and SmackDown having 4 teams qualify to get into a tag team tournament and having that one team win on WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2, respectively, for Raw and SmackDown, and becoming the new tag champions for their respective brand. Women's World Title match, Nia Jax, Rhea Ripley. I don't think there's any amount of money you could give me to make me bet on Nia Jax in this. I think the match is going to be awesome. It's going to be a banger. I think these guys are going to go back and forth. These women are amazing athletes. Nia has been on such a tear on Raw since coming back and returning to the company. They've built her up to being just what she's been billed as for a long time, is that unstoppable force. Rhea Ripley, though, is on another level. She's on the Roman Reigns greatness on another level. She's just amazing. Amazing. They've done an amazing job booking her for the past almost a year now as the women's champion. Rhea, obviously, hometown favorite. She's going to have the entire country, the entire arena behind her. So Rhea going over, obviously, but definitely a good story. Could there be some interference? There could be. I think it's going to be a clean match. I don't think a lot of these matches, besides the undisputed men's tag team, I can't see a lot of any of these matches having outside interference. Just having them going over clean, which makes a lot of sense. Save all that stuff for WrestleMania and all that good stuff. So let's start with the chambers. Let's go to the chambers. So we'll start with the women's. You have Becky Lynch, Naomi, Tiffany Stratton, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, and Raquel Rodriguez. Earlier on, we had talked about our picks. We had Naomi, Tiffany, and Jade Cargill getting the final 3 spots. For some reason, unfortunately, Jade was pulled from the chamber match for whatever reasons, unbeknownst to us. You can call it creative. Maybe she just wasn't really, quote unquote, ready in time for her to start there. Maybe it wasn't the proper timing when it falls into, as far as the way they're going to write her in and her path. Because when she comes in, it's going to be just on a warpath. She's going to come in and dominate like nobody's dominated. Probably the stuff you've seen from Nia Jax and from Rhea Ripley. She's just going to come in and go on a complete and utter tear across the women's division. First off, let me just tell you, number one with a bullet, winning that women's chamber is Becky Lynch. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But I'm telling you right now, there's no way. There's a reason why she was kept out of that title match for so long. It's a title picture, I'm sorry, for so long, and kept out of title pictures and matches, and just kept on doing her other thing. She did the Trish thing in the summer, and just doing her own little thing and going down to NXT, being the NXT Women's Champion, and just keeping her busy, keeping her still relevant on TV week in and week out, getting her to the Rumble, and finally like having her fight her way through the chamber to get to Rhea Ripley. It's definitely good. So with the Jade Cargill being pulled out of the chamber, we definitely from sources that I've talked to in recent days, up till actually a little bit ago today, internally right now there's been a shift, and they're looking at doing a Bianca Belair and Tiffany Stratton program coming out of the chamber going into WrestleMania. I can't tell you that's going to be booked in for night 1, night 2. We'll be talking about that probably in a couple of weeks when we do our WrestleMania predictions. Definitely can see that happening. If you watch the Perth kickoff, Elimination Chamber presser, you can see they tried to do a little bit of a teaser there between her and Tiffany and Bianca, and Tiffany storming off stage. So that would make sense if that's kind of where they're kind of just teasing it, giving a little taste. We'll see what happens in the chamber if one eliminates the other or is responsible for the other one getting eliminated. Also, too, I think one that's a lot of people have forgotten about, I think Liv and Raquel are going to be a grudge match. And you can paint this all the way back when when Liv had to go out because of an injury. Raquel was left sitting there holding the check. Had to relinquish the women's tag team belts. So I think those two in the chamber, I think you're going to open up a lot of old wounds. You might see them facing off at Mania. Other than that, it really kind of leaves Becky obviously winning, so you kind of leave Naomi with no path. I really can't tell you right now what I can see Naomi doing. I'm sure it won't be hard with probably about 6 weeks, 5.5, 6 weeks of build. I hate to see her not make the card. I know she just came back at the Rumble, but maybe the best course is to maybe have her just wrestling and kind of stay relevant, be here and there, doing her thing, and kind of just do the full reset the Monday after WrestleMania. Just wait till that reset of the year for WWE and just have her at that point go forward with something. Also with Jade, I feel like Jade at this point right now, with her not being in the chamber, you really can't introduce her, or really shouldn't introduce her um, a night or two or a week or two after the chamber, and have her just throw her into a match with Bianca or anybody else for that matter. I feel like at this point now, Jade is a night after WrestleMania debut. The way we see it, obviously, I see Rhea and Becky. Um, it's a little too close to call right now. I really do feel like this is Becky's time. They've built her up enough as the face. Rhea's held the title enough. I think you're gonna see a lot of breaking down of the Judgment Day with titles being lost. Maybe Rhea doesn't lose. Maybe she does retain. Either way, I feel like you see someone come out on Monday night, whether it be Rhea or whether it be Becky, and I've beaten everybody. I beat the chamber. I've beaten her. I'm at the top of the mountain. There's no one else that can. And all of a sudden on the Titantron, you see the JADE. You see Jade come down the ramp and introducing her officially to the WWE audience, and have her stake claim to a roster first of all, and then have her go into a program with the Raw World Women's Champion, and then going into a program for Backlash, and then and past that as well. So that covers the women. Let's go to the men's. The men's is actually quite complicated. If you look at the guys that are inside the chamber, let me explain. So you have Kevin Owens, you have Logan Paul, LA Knight, Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre, and Randy Orton. All right. Again, if anyone but Drew wins that chamber, this is all for naught. There's a reason why they stacked everyone else in that chamber as a SmackDown superstar, and Drew is the lone Raw superstar. All right. This is done so obviously Drew wins the chamber, can come on to Monday Night Raw the next 2 nights after, talk about how not only did he beat an entire chamber full of the opposite brand's best, but now he is the man standing here on Raw ready to take on Seth Rollins. Now again, I talked about the inner workings and the interlocking of everybody in the chamber, how they're going to set everybody up, kind of like that Rubik's Cube, turning it around and making everything make sense of why everyone is where there is. So you take 3 other guys. You have Kevin Owens, Logan Paul, and LA Knight. For probably about 2 months now, I've been talking about how LA Knight and Logan Paul are bound for each other and are bound for a collision course at WrestleMania. I think the United States Championship is going to be the first belt that LA Knight gets his hands on and gets his first taste of WWE Gold. With that being said, after seeing the promos on SmackDown, after watching the Elimination Chamber presser in Perth, and the interaction and the going-ons and interactions between KO and Logan Paul, if I had to call it right now, if I had to call a match that's going to be on the WrestleMania card for the United States Championship, right now, I feel it's going to be Kevin Owens, Logan Paul, and LA Knight in a triple threat for the United States Championship. Now, this is a perfect way to not make Logan Paul look weak. I'm not saying that Kevin Owens needs to be made looking weak, but KO can take a pin and be perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Because he can come out and still kind of blame Logan Paul. LA Knight gets the pin on KO, 1, 2, 3. Now, you can go two directions with that. You can go 2 roads. Now, one, KO can take on LA Knight, saying, well, I'm sorry, Logan Paul can take on LA Knight, saying, well, he didn't pin me, so I want my rematch. Or you get KO and Logan Paul in a match at Backlash to see who the number 1 contender will be for LA Knight, and LA Knight will be taking on somebody else in the SmackDown roster. So in the way of storytelling, the way it's gone in the past 5 to 6 months under the Triple H regime, I really feel like the KO Logan Paul match happens at Backlash, and LA Knight figures out what he's doing and takes on obviously another opponent, somebody who wants to step up on the SmackDown roster. The odd man out in that is Bobby Lashley. But if you had to ask me right now what I think is going to happen with Bobby Lashley in regards to WrestleMania, it's got to be Bobby Lashley's little group against the Final Testament with Karrion Kross. You're finally getting Karrion Kross a decent spot, decent match on the card of WrestleMania, probably a night 1. If I had to guess. But those two definitely have something to figure out and get it done at WrestleMania. So when we reset and then the new year starts the week after, those two guys, those two factions, kind of go their separate ways. And like I said, I mean, with the tag belts, hopefully, and eminently being split to Raw and SmackDown, just the two factions I just mentioned. You have the Street Profits and you have the Authors of Pain right there as two teams in the SmackDown hunt, plus many of other teams on both brands. So I would be 100% shocked if those belts do not get split at Mania, or for Mania, I should say. I'm going to be very, very shocked if they run through it all the way. It's your perfect opportunity to run a tournament where you would usually put your tag showcase, as they had the past 2 years. That's where you would have your match to see top 4 teams of each brand duke it out in your tag fatal 4-way rules match. Anyone can be tagged in, and have them go and crown new champions on night 1 and night 2. So, but I'd be remiss to not also mention one of the biggest attractions at the Elimination Chamber show that's not being talked about enough is the Grayson Waller effect that's going to be taking place at the Elimination Chamber in Perth. Now, yes, it's a great way to get Grayson Waller in front of his home crowd, to get the pop, to get the Grayson Waller rub, all right? But the fact that he's having Seth and Cody on, and not for nothing, at the presser earlier today, Seth did talk about having words to say about Roman and The Rock. Now, I've talked about it for probably 2-3 weeks now. I could be in the minority, and maybe I'm way off, and maybe I'm kind of right, but I'm kind of wrong. But in some way, shape, or form, Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes need to have a tag match against The Rock and Roman Reigns. Now, maybe it happens on the SmackDown before Mania, but why would you do that? Why would you waste that match on actual cable TV? And the night before Mania, you're going to have the SmackDown happen, and then the next night at Mania, we're going to have one of them guys go in a match. It doesn't make any sense. I'm telling you, night 1 is going to be the tag match, and then night 2 is going to feature Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins defending their titles. Because it makes sense. You stack up night 1 with the tag match. You put a bunch of other matches on there that make it obviously watchable, make it worthwhile. And night two is your main event. Night 2 is the bread and butter, which would be your main event of WrestleMania. And that's where you're going to have both your champions defending. And it makes total sense. I've had people, message me, DM me, email me, talking about, why would you not have the title on each night? Why wouldn't you? Why would you? Like, who's to say that's how it's set up? Night 1 is the teaser. Night 1, everyone gets ready. It gets you excited, gets you amped up to tune in for night 2. If they give you if you give you part of the dinner here at night 1, why are that many people not going to tune into night 2? If both title matches happen on night 2, you can't tell me that the world is tuning in. Again, everyone and their brother, any chance they have, any wrestler talks about it. Seth did it today. 40 is the biggest WrestleMania of all time. Why would you not have a tag match one night and title matches the next night? This is what the night 1 and night 2 are built for. And it's finally been seen, and the whole picture's become crystal clear for Paul Levesque and for Nick Khan. Why not do a match of that magnitude on night 1? And have them defend. They have 24 hours to rest up and go do their match the next night. They do it all the time. They do a live event and then go live to SmackDown the next night. They do it all the time. People tell me, Seth is going to be medically cleared. At this point on, and maybe he's at 90%, 94%. Okay, when Punk went down, Seth understood them. He understood the mission, understood the assignment. He needed to take on that much more responsibility to help carry WrestleMania and make it what it needs to be. All right. So I don't want to hear this junk about, you're going to wrestle back-to-back nights. They do it all the time. And a tag match is perfect for Seth Rollins. Have Cody and Rock go the whole way. Save Roman. Save Seth. Have Rock go the whole way. Rock's not wrestling night 2. Or is he? We'll talk about that in a minute. But I think the Grayson Waller effect is going to be amazing. I think whatever they're going to do on that show, they've already talked. Roman and Rock are not in Perth, allegedly. Maybe they're not. Roman has said he's not going. So maybe The Rock shows up, maybe he doesn't. But if it's just those two, the words that are going to be said are going to trigger The Rock and Roman on that SmackDown the Friday after in some way, shape, or form to talk about beating the both of them. And aside from anything I'm saying right now, if you don't need me to sit here and try to convince you. Did you watch the Super Bowl? Did anyone out here watch the Super Bowl that's watching this show right now? Did you watch it? Who was in the WrestleMania teaser? Who were the four people that walked across the stage and stood eye to eye to each other? The millions of people watching the Super Bowl 2 Sundays ago. Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes. On one side, on the other side, Roman Reigns and The Rock. Staring down each other. Do you think that's done on purpose? Or on accident? No. Everything counts. Everything is done on purpose. There's a reason. And they're gauging how the people feel about a tag match. And I'm telling you right now, it's hot. The temperature's hot. People want it. People want that tag match. So like I said, stick it on night 1. Have your champions go on night 2. It's a no-brainer. So, that's how I see it coming out of Elimination Chamber. I think the PLE is going to be amazing. I think these past 2 shows, the Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber coming up this weekend, I think going to this 4-match format and really taking the time and letting the stories tell themselves in the individual matches that are actually on the card, I think make a lot of sense. And I'm not saying do this all the time. I don't want to see a SummerSlam with 4 matches. I don't want to see a Money in the Bank with 4. Well, Money in the Bank might actually be another one. You have 4 matches. You have the women's ladder, the men's ladder, and maybe have someone defend because there's Money in the Bank involved. So maybe have a championship defended here or there. Maybe 5 matches, have a tag match in there as well. But I think for the big ones like that, where you have a match that needs its own time limit. Go back to when Triple H took over. When it finally there was a changing of the guard, the passing of the torch, however you want to call it. And they were talking about the PLEs they were going to get rid of, and they scrapped Hell in a Cell. What was one of the things Triple H said? He goes, these PLEs need to make sense. And they need to be able to be something that people are going to want to tune into and watch on TV that tell a story and make sense. Hell in a Cell doesn't make sense. Hell in a Cell is reserved for an end-all, be-all. All right, if you grew up in the Attitude Era like I did, all the way through the early 2000s, all the way up to now, the Hell in a Cell has always been, listen, we've done this 4 different times. There's interference. You used the chair. You did this. Your grandmother's mom's uncle involved. Listen, I'm sick of it. The only way we can settle this and handle this is in a Hell in a Cell. No one else. You and me. Let's go. The most barbaric structure ever created in WWE. Elimination Chamber being a close second. Hell in a Cell is meant to be where rivalries are ended. And it's a statement match. Like whoever wins that match is forevermore the champion and the victor. And the stronger of the two. So I say all that because Triple H got rid of that match. It doesn't make any sense. The ones he did keep, Elimination Chamber, Money in the Bank. These are the ones you can have 4 matches with your 2 premier women's and men's match with a couple other ones sprinkled in here that make sense, that are entertaining, you want to tune in for. Survivor Series. If I had to guess, the War Games probably next year is going to have a men's and a women's. You're looking at probably a 4 or 5 match card in Survivor Series. But it's okay because you want to see the War Games. The War Games match probably starts around, I think, June or July. Kind of the past 2 years is kind of where you see the seeds being planted of who's going to do the War Games and who will be in it and who's going to join forces to be in it as well. Factions aren't going away anytime soon. They seem to be a very, very big deal and very important to Triple H, to Nick Khan, Road Dogg, all the producers. It makes the factions and the rivalries between there make a lot of sense. This time next year, I don't think you have a Judgment Day anymore. The Bloodline, if it's still around, it's on life support. 41 is where I feel is you're going to get your Rock and Roman. And we'll talk about this next week after the Elimination Chamber. After what happens, and I'll give you. We talked about that on the special edition that we did on the episode after we did our episode after SmackDown with The Rock coming out and doing his thing with the Bloodline. I think you're going to see a story being told this entire year after Mania. You're going to see Rock and Roman finally at 41, and that's really is going to be the end all be all for the Bloodline. And that kind of closes the book and the chapter on that part of the Roman Reigns character. But yeah, I get down. I get down with the four match concept. It makes sense. You have plenty of, like I said, plenty of time for the chamber matches to be played out. No one's really rushing anything. Do your thing in there. Figure it out. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. As I've said before, we're on the East Coast. So 5 a.m. is going to be the wake-up call. 4 a.m. if you're watching the pre-show, which I plan on. So 4 a.m. Well, 3:45 will probably be the wake-up call. Get a big cup of coffee. Grab my Zoa. Turn on Peacock and start watching the pre-show. Get ready for 5 a.m. So that'll be good. I mean, I'm not even that mad about the 5 a.m. The 5 a.m. Listen, there's plenty of other countries that had to tune in when here in America it starts at 8 o'clock our time. At 5 o'clock Western time. And there's other countries I gotta get up all these weird times of the day, watch the replays, have to watch it in the morning or when they get out of work. It's a couple times. It is what it is. I'm cool with it. So with that being said, with it being WrestleMania season, one thing I really haven't seen anyone talk about recently is or I should say this time of year right now, is the Hall of Fame inductions. I'm sure after Elimination Chamber, Monday, Tuesday, or Friday, you'll start hearing them announcing maybe the first name or the centerpiece being named for the class of 2024. So I went ahead and I went through and I took a look at a lot of people that aren't in the Hall of Fame yet. And I wanted to go through and see maybe who WWE might earmark to join the class and maybe even be the centerpiece this year for the 2024 WWE Hall of Fame. So I wrote 6 down with some of their credentials. So there's a lot here. So if you see me referencing, it's a lot of credentials for a lot of these guys. So starting off, we'll start at the bottom. We'll start at number 6 and work our way up to number 1. This number 6 is an amazing tag team. They were WWF champions back in the day. Amazing tag team, did great work back in the day. Is Demolition. It's kind of weird that they're not in yet. A lot of great tag teams have been put into the Hall of Fame. I think Demolition has stood the test of time. They were amazing when they were on television. I just feel like it's one of those things where, like, on a major league Hall of Fame ballot, you only have so much time before you run out. Basketball, hockey, football. I mean, you can always keep going. But I feel like WWE should kind of encompass something like that, where you only have a certain amount of time. Because then it feels less like WWE's running around and, oh, we don't know who to induct. Let's grab a team from back in the day, or let's grab this celebrity and put them in the celebrity wing. And before all you guys start atting me and emailing me and telling me, like, what about this person? Goldust, Jericho, Big Show, Owen Hart, and Taz, I don't want to hear about it. I'm not even going to talk about them because they're obviously under contract to AEW. Chris Jericho, first ballot Hall of Famer. Goldust, first ballot Hall of Famer. Big Show, Grand Slam champion, first ballot Hall of Famer, WWE, all of them. Owen Hart, right in. Taz, ECW, WCW, WWE, right in. But unfortunately, they all work for the other company. Don't think that Triple H is going to be giving them a phone call trying to bring them into their Hall of Fame while they're working for another company. But as we've seen, never say never. Things happen down the road. People get signed. People get brought in. So Demolition, I think, is a tag team that was amazing in their time. I've had the pleasure of meeting them. Great guys. Great guys. Awesome to talk to. And I think just really a really good tag team that would be a perfect fit in the Hall of Fame. Going on to number 5. A lot of these I try to tie these in a lot with some people that are on the roster and would make sense for this year. I think number 5, I got a WCW Tag Champion and also an NWA World Tag Champion and an NWA US Tag Champion. And that would be Brian Pillman. Now, I bring him up. Obviously, there's a lot of things outside, unfortunately, outside of wrestling that are exactly in the greatest of light for Brian. But I do feel at this time, with his son making a huge splash in NXT after making the jump from AEW. So you got to look at his son being in AEW, coming to WWE. Someone like Brian, who was in NWA, WCW, made his way to WWE, had some amazing storylines on TV as an amazing on-air character. I think maybe this might be the time, kind of let the time cure all wounds, and healing all the wounds, and kind of bringing him in, letting him get into the Hall of Fame, and obviously having Brian Pillman Jr. induct his father in the Hall of Fame. I think it would be a touching moment. I think, like I said, I think Brian deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Did a lot of great things for a lot of wrestling promotions, especially in WWE. So he's definitely a name I'm hoping they consider. And the number 4 spot, and this is a name that I don't understand how they're not in yet. An ECW World Champion, an ECW Television Champion, and a WCW Tag Champion, and did amazing in-ring work for years in WWF, is Bam Bam Bigelow. I can't tell you why he hasn't been inducted yet. It's curious to me. I would have thought he would have gotten in years ago. Bam Bam is an amazing talent. Did amazing things on screen for 3 different promotions. I'm thinking this might be the year. I have a pretty good feeling. No inside information or anything like that. But I think it'd be a good year for him. I can't really think of a lot of other people. We'll get to the top 3 I have coming that I think are going to be getting in this year. In my opinion, I'll explain why. But Bam Bam Bigelow is definitely a great choice. Is definitely long overdue to grace the halls of the Hall of Fame for WWE. All right, so these top 3 I think are going to get in this year. I feel like one of them is going to be the centerpiece. One of 2, I should say, is going to be the centerpiece, depending on how WWE wants to do this. Number 3 is a WWE champion, a World Heavyweight Champion, a World Tag Team Champion. Also won the Royal Rumble in 2005 and in 2014. None other than Dave Bautista. There were a lot of rumblings this past year of Dave going in, being the centerpiece, but with things not working out with Hollywood and his schedule and things like that, not being able to take the time out to be able to be there, accepting at the Hall of Fame, and also being there for WrestleMania weekend. That was shelved. I think this is the year Dave comes in. I don't know. I think he's definitely like the co-centerpiece this year. An amazing career. Whether he was a champion or not, was amazing on a WWE screen. Great stuff. When he was the Deacon, when he was with Devon Dudley, and then when he obviously joined the ranks of Evolution, and then eventually going on his singles run in WWE before leaving, coming back, doing his run with Triple H at WrestleMania a second time. So I think that's amazing. What he did was great work. Again, overdue. I know last year was the year they tried to get him in. Didn't really work out, unfortunately, with scheduling, but I think this is the year that you see Dave finally get the nod and get the grace the Hall of Fame. All right, so these 2 are intertwined. And once I talk about number 2, you're going to probably figure out who I think the number 1 and the centerpiece of this year's Hall of Fame induction needs to be. Number 2, a WWF Tag Champion, an NWA World Television Champion. But aside from being a champion, did some of the best tag work in WWE, in WWF back in the day, with Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, Erwin Arsheister, IRS. This tag team, Money Inc., did great work. They were an amazing heel team, just with the $1 Million Championship, with the WWF World Tag Belts. an amazing character. Also with Virgil involved as well. Money Inc. was one of the better factions um, of early WWF, of really the tasting of the Attitude Era. Um, IRS is definitely overdue, and I mean, I would hope that maybe Money Inc. would get put in together um, with IRS. I mean, I would imagine maybe Ted DiBiase inducts him. Um, so, with that being said, I think it's a no-brainer, a shoe-in, and it really goes without being said. I think um, the person that needs to be the centerpiece this year for the Hall of Fame is is Wyndham Rotunda, is Bray Wyatt. I mean, Bray in his short time, a tag champ, being a Raw SmackDown tag champion, being a Universal champion, a WWE champion, um, the the Firefly Funhouse, the Wyatt family, you name it, captivating. Whether as a heel, whether you loved him, whether you booed him, captivating the audience every time he came on your screen, and just a way that the WWE Universe had not seen in a long, long, long time. Um, Obviously, his unfortunate passing last year of a heart condition really shook the foundation of wrestling. Um, as it's been a long time since a superstar that beloved has been taken from us this quickly, way, 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 way sooner than should have been ever been thought of. And again, I had the privilege of meeting Bray Wyatt, um, and he's an amazing, amazing individual. He was awesome to talk to. Took the time. Didn't rush anyone. Such a humble man. When I had a chance to meet him, the signing that he was at in New York was one of the first signings he did since being released from WWE. It was probably, I want to say, 4 months after his release. Didn't really do much. Wasn't really doing anything. Stayed really low key. And the look on his face, we were able to acquire VIP when we met him, and the line for VIP was almost just as long as the line of the general admission people that were waiting to meet him. And you could see it was almost, I want to say, choking back tears. You can't see, it's not in camera shot. Maybe I'll have it on the next show. I'll put it right over here. We have I have the Fiend belt signed by him, and also right over here the Universal title. I have signed by him as well with his plates on it. He was so nervous. You'll see it. He went to go write B for Bray, and he kind of was shaky, and he was just he was sweating. He was just so humble and so nervous that all these people still wanted to come out and see him after all that time being away for the 4 or 5 months, being out of the public light, and then coming out for a signing like that, and just so much fanfare and so many people coming out to see him, and wanting to just be around him and talk to him was amazing. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good list, I think, for this year. So Bray Wyatt, IRS, Batista, Bam Bam Bigelow, Brian Pillman, and Demolition. I think all of them really have. I mean, that could be a class right there in its own. If you want me to be honest with you, I think that's an amazing list, a great class. I think there's a lot of people out there right now in AEW. I think that once those contracts are done and the bridges are built back with a new regime here with Paul Levesque and Nick Khan and a whole bunch of other stuff going on, I think these guys are going to come home, not for nothing, but just to sign that Legends contract, get inducted to the Hall of Fame, where you got to understand, like, you can go and do whatever you want. You can go across the world, go across the globe, and practice your craft and wrestle in a different place every night, every day of the year. But you have to understand, when you have your start in WWE, you know where home is. So with that being said, we're looking forward to Elimination Chamber this weekend. Next week, we'll definitely we'll have a results show as far as Elimination Chamber. We'll also be talking about AEW Revolution next weekend. Talking about the card is stacking up nice. They have some very, very good matches that are really, really making that pay-per-view really worthwhile to buy and to tune into and to see. We'll talk a little bit more about that next week. Also diving a little more to NXT. Some of the storylines are going on down there as they get ready to start going into their stand and deliver mode, getting ready for their little mini WrestleMania on the NXT level. And also we'll talk a little bit about WrestleMania once the kind of card it takes a little more of shape, and what happens on Raw and SmackDown after the Elimination Chamber. So as always, you can catch us on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Twitter. Same handle, at Chairshot Sports. If you're watching this on YouTube, please shoot us a subscribe. We appreciate it. Shoot this video a like. Feel free to leave any questions, comments in the on the video. Also, we do have an email now, chairshotsports@gmail.com. Feel free to shoot us any emails, any questions, comments, any kind of fantasy booking you want to talk about. If you get enough of those, we'll go ahead and do a little segment at the end of the show. We'll read some of those. We'll read your email on air. So yeah, with that being said, I appreciate you guys taking the time. Always a pleasure. I'm John Anthony, and until next time, we'll talk to you soon.